live, is she?
Hey guys, we are live. Ted Bogert back with the TED Show. This is the home team of Freedom Mortgage Cares series that we have launched. It's actually launching today. And Commission 127 with Betsey and Rashad Bell are our first people on the show and our first organization that we're working with. And they were brought to us by the one and only Stephanie Martinez, who is my teammate at the home team. So welcome, all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome, Betsey and Rashad.
I'm excited, all right? But I want people to know a little bit about you, Betsey and Rashad. Stephanie's been on the show before. We'll get to her in a minute. But tell them a little bit about you, and then let's talk a little bit about Commission 127.
Yeah, thank you. Ben, we have been married now 16 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Is 6 kiddos and range from ages 5, 7, 10, 12, 22, and 23. And just this year became grandparents as well. So.
Congratulations. That's awesome. That's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're never bored.
Never.
It's always something going on. But we started in our journey fostering about 8 years, six years ago, and quickly found out that there's such a great need for foster parents and families, but yet there's just such a lack of support. And so I think we can all agree that children belong in families, and yet without the support, most of our foster families can't continue. And so what we saw a great need for was to be able to use the church and people in the community to really wrap around foster families.
So what did you do before you got involved in Commission 127? Did you always have a heart for foster care? Did you always have a heart for kids? Or did you just kind of stumble into this?
Well, it was kind of interesting. We talked about, even when we were dating, that we would one day adopt. We didn't really know much about foster care, so it was kind of a new concept. But I started running an organization that was a nonprofit here locally for foster children, and that's kind of how we fell into it, and how we met our oldest daughter. We had 3 kiddos at the time. Our youngest was only 6 months old when our oldest daughter joined us, and she was 16.
Wow.
And so she had just been in many different group homes and bounced around. And so she joined our family. And then we had another little one, our youngest biological son. And then our next daughter joined us when she was 18. And she's now 22. So it's not really even a traditional, like, hey, we planned on doing this, and kind of broke some of the rules of, like, don't mess with birth order. But, it's just been an amazing journey. But it's definitely something where you need, our foster families and adoptive families need a village around them, because it can feel very lonely.
And really, it was like once we became aware to what the crisis was, we acted it. And so, Ted, thank you for allowing us this platform here just to make many more aware.
It's a blessing. And honestly, I have to give all the kudos to the one and only Stephanie Martinez, because she is the one who obviously she has a connection with you all, and there's lots of love going up and down, by the way. I just happen to look at the comments right now. We'll get to you guys. We love you all and we appreciate you. But Stephanie, you brought Commission 127 to us. So tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us how you found out about the organization.
So I'm Stephanie Martinez. I'm a mortgage loan originator with Freedom since November of last year. And I've loved it since I got here. I love everyone on the team. Everyone's so genuine and kind and really, really caring. And I think this is one of the things that when I signed on to be part of Freedom, I specifically brought this up. I said, I want to do good for my community, especially through my church and the people who are affiliated with my church. Commission 127 was definitely on my mind. So as soon as you guys brought up that we were going to be, giving back in this way, and I was like, I'm so in, and I was like, I want to do with Commission 127. So I was super excited when you guys said yes, and I'm so, so grateful to Freedom for giving us this opportunity.
So let's talk a little bit more about Commission 127. I think that people hear the term foster kids, foster care, and there's all sorts of things that go through people's minds. There's not enough homes for them, which is probably accurate. Kids spend way too much time in the foster care system. And then they age out and there aren't services. I have a master's degree in this, so I can talk it. So the whole process of what you do is really overwhelming if you don't have the organization, which you have right now. So talk a little bit about the system itself. Give people an idea of what's happening in the foster care world.
Yeah, I think a lot of foster kids get a really bad rap, and there's a stigma around foster kids are bad or there's something wrong with them. And then really, they're in a system that they did absolutely nothing to get into that system. So either their parents weren't able to care for them, or their parents made choices that made it so that they weren't able to keep them safe. They end up in this system that's just not meant to, a state is not meant to care for kids and be parents. And so that is really difficult. And then there's a bad rap for foster parents who, if people are doing it for the money, that's not true. There's these amazing people who are just giving of their whole lives to love kids from really hard places. And so it's, kids come in at no fault of their own due to abuse, neglect, or abandonment. And so we've got, in the country, there's about 400,000 kids who are in the system of foster care. Locally in Central Florida, we've got about 2,000. And many are in group homes, which is not a great place for kids to be. It's not a family environment. And so, for example, in Central Florida, we have 145 kids who are in group homes, not in families. And yet we have over 3,000 churches in Central Florida. So how do we mobilize even a small percentage of them to be able to know how to do this? And if you're a believer or you read the Bible, James 1:27 is a scripture that we're based off of, and really to care for the orphans in their distress. And no church is going to say, we don't want to do that, because it's very clear that God says it's important and we should all do something. But churches just don't know how to do it because it's complex.
It's really complex. It can be overwhelming trying to maneuver through the system itself, because you would think that the system would be set up in a way that would make it easy for foster kids to be placed in the right homes. And it's a very complicated, you have to have all the checks, the checks on background. There's so much that goes into it. And I think that a lot of people don't want to get involved because they feel like it's too much of a hassle. But I think you guys are going to tell us that's not true.
Yeah, people just don't know. You kind of heard about it, and it feels very scary. So about 50% of foster families across the country will only last the first placement or 1 year. And it's a lot to even get to that point. And so what's really important is to have that support. So basically the model that we implement and help churches implement is to have care communities around families that it's about 6 to 8 people who will walk with a family for a year. But so let's say, Ted, you were on a care community for a family, you would maybe say, well, I could bring a meal once a month. And then we get 3 other people to bring a meal once a month. And now that family has a meal every week, but it's not super taxing on you and you don't feel burnt out. And then maybe Stephanie's like, hey, I'd love to mentor a kid or help babysit. So we get 2 people to say, we'll babysit once a month. And then that family can actually have a date night and can have a time to breathe. And then there's one person who's a team leader who just kind of coordinates and connects and finds out how they can be praying for families and what's going on each week. So it's not a huge burden on anybody. But we're not all called to foster, but we are all called to care. And so it's about finding that on-ramp for people to be able to get involved.
I think the foster it's just such a loving place to be. And I think people put way too many stressors on themselves, believing that they can't do it. But I have seen firsthand that some of the people that thought they didn't have the resources to do it are some of the best foster parents out there. I think people get so caught up, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to react? Well, if you've got a love and you follow the instructions of Commission 127 and what the system tells you, then you pretty much have a great path to being a foster parent. My wife was adopted from Children's Home Society. And so we have such a love for adoption and foster care. And I just know from experience that some of those kids stay in the system for so long. So I imagine that's part of your goal, is to get as many kids placed with as many matching foster parents as possible.
Yes. And to get more families who will be open to caring for kids and fostering kids who are double digits. Because those are most of our kids who are filling up our group homes. People are kind of scared of their own teenagers, so sometimes asking someone to foster a teenager is scary, but yet there's a lot of benefits, and it's sometimes, I mean, they're just different. It's sometimes, I mean, you're not up all night changing diapers, you're not, and so it's a different kind of hard with teenagers, but there's so many amazing kids who just need a family. And as kids get older, I mean, our daughter came to us at 18, and some people will go, oh, why does she, I didn't know you could even do that. Well, she has 80 more years to live. She needs a family. Correct. She needs a place to call home. And at 18, most people, even with a really great foundation and no trauma, you don't just go out into the world at 18 and you're great. I mean, a lot of kids, I've worked with several charities where the kids age out. And I think that people don't realize that when you hit 18, you're done. You are out of the system that you might have lived in a lot of your life, or have been through many families, and you finally age out. It's not like, I mean, I think they might give you a toothbrush. I'm not picking on the system itself, but it's very little that they give you. And so there's all these transitional kinds of opportunities for them out there, but it's not an easy journey. So if you're looking at an older child, you could make such a huge impact on that older child's full life. If you have great. I mean, Florida is much better than many of the states in regards to caring for kids who age out. So they actually will continue, if they continue to go to school, they'll get a stipend that will help pay for some of their life expenses. And as in addition, which is really, really cool, and both of our girls have taken advantage of this, is that they can go to any state school in the state of Florida completely free up to the age of 28. So it's an incredible opportunity for them to be able to get bachelor's, master's, whatever, technical degree, whatever it is. And so that's not, if you're scared of that, of, how am I going to send one more kid to college? That's for Florida.
Do you have to, and I'm going to ask Stephanie some questions. Do you have to adopt? Can you be a foster parent and not go the adoption route? Or do most of the parents go that route?
Yeah, actually, in Florida, foster to adopt is not a thing. So you either foster and you are caring for that child for as long as they are there, because the goal of foster care is really to reunify with biological parents, if at all possible, and safe. And so in Florida, you foster, and maybe sometimes their parental rights are terminated and they might be available to be adopted. But usually you either foster or you say, I just want to adopt, and you don't do the foster and they just do a match from foster care.
All right, so Stephanie, share with us why this, obviously it motivated you, moved you, inspired you. What was it about Commission 127 that you said, all right, this is the organization I want us to do in Orlando?
Yeah, so I mean, but maybe some people don't know that I am a mom. When I became a mother, that just shifted so much for me, and children just have such a special place in my heart. You can't tell me anything happened bad to a child, because I will just be destroyed. I can't handle it. So, they go to my church. I love them from church. I love their children. They say that your children is such a reflection of your beautiful heart. And I love their children. Because I serve on the kids, a care team at church. So I've gotten to know their children, and they're amazing. So, love my church too. So any opportunity that I can get to be a part of it and continue to support, I will take.
Love it. All right. So tell us, what is Freedom doing? How are we getting involved? It's one thing to have a show, but it's another thing to take action. And the home team is all about taking action. So what are we doing with Commission 127? So
in the month of June, every single transaction that we close, our loan officers are going to put a portion of the proceeds towards Commission 127, and Freedom Mortgage is going to match that as well. So we're super excited because we have a high volume. So that's going to be really, really good. And then we're also looking to maybe create an event afterwards to continue to be able to get the message out there and continue to help.
I love it. I got weepy almost when you said that.
I know. I got weepy.
I know you did too. You got choked up. I'm like, oh God, don't get choked up. I'll cry if you cry. Let me ask you, Betsey and Rashad, I think people will go, okay, so what do you need to raise money for if you were pushing off to different parents? Like, what is the need? I want people to understand what the need is for you all and why it's so important to support you're a conduit basically to help this process out. Why is it important for people to get involved and show their support monetarily?
Yeah, well, without a coordinated effort, this just doesn't happen. And so foster parents will often kind of struggle by themselves until they decide they can't do this. So what Commission 127 does is we come alongside, connect with churches, give them the tools, give them the foundation, what they need. We have people who connect with all of our families and the people who are kind of supporting the ministries all across Central Florida. And then there's needs for our families. Like we just had a need for a rental gap because there was a potential of someone losing their placement because they lost their job during COVID, or a grandma that had taken in her child who otherwise would have gone into foster care, but she wasn't prepared and she needed a bed, or counseling.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that there's just not, there is a stipend that's given to foster parents. It's very small and it helps. But there's other times when you just need something right now, and you get a placement in the middle of the night, and you have a 14-year-old. Well, first need some clothes and some things.
And really, like something else I know is somewhat intangible, but what our organization offers is like true community. Because when you're in this space of loving kids from hard places, it's hard. But a lot of times people just won't understand. And it's a blessing having a group of 8 to 12 around you that will say, keep going. I'm here for you, whatever you need. I know it's hard. You don't need to explain. Just keep going. Just really having that moral, no, not moral, but emotional support is like so key in this.
I love it. All right, so how can we reach out? Who should we reach out to? Should we reach out to Betsey and Rashad? What's the best way for people to get involved? And then we'll just kind of wrap it up and see how people reach out to all of you.
Yeah, well, in Central Florida, we are all about community and grassroots. And so we have a training next week, and that's on our website. So if you go to c127.org/orientation, or just navigate through to get involved. We have a training next week that's on Zoom. And so couldn't it be easier to get involved and get trained up so that you can get plugged in, and we will wrap around a family that lives close to you in the area. That's Love really it. The next tangible step. But really awareness. I mean, Facebook, all of those things are helpful to just get people thinking about opportunities that they maybe never thought about before.
Yeah, because it's something else that people don't realize with our recent COVID crisis. Our first indicators of trauma than harm are really teachers. The teachers are seeing students right now.
Sure.
So when school opens up in the fall, we are expecting a flood to the foster care system. And so if you are ever interested in possibly fostering, foster.
Yeah, and you can reach out to us and we can let you know when the next classes are to become, go through the classes to become foster parents. But the abuse reports are down 50%, and that's not a good thing. It just means that abuse is reported. And the incidences of kids coming into foster care through the ER and the hospital have spiked dramatically. So we just, I mean, there's hidden kids who are just not seen because they're not going outside of their house. So we just need to be aware of that.
Agreed. Stephanie, how do people reach out to you?
People can reach out to me either on any of my social medias. I try to respond to messages as soon as possible, or they can reach out to me by email. Stephanie, STEPHANIE.Martinez, MARTINEZ @freedommortgage.com. Or you can just ask about me.
I love it. All right. It's such an honor to have you guys on. Thank you so much. I think what you're doing is just amazing, and the community needs it. We need it, and we need somebody to be a conduit and an advocate, which is what both of you are doing and your whole team is doing. So thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for allowing the home team of Freedom Mortgage to be a part of what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Stephanie.
All right, guys. Listen,
Thanks for what
Commission
you're doing.
127.
Yes.
C127.org, or you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Betsy and Rashad, or you can reach out to Stephanie. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much. You're the first show for the Home Team Cares, so thanks for taking that on. We appreciate everything that you do. All right, guys, we'll be back later. See you soon. Mwah. Appreciate everyone.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Well, we're out, maybe. I don't know. It depends.